The legendary beasts are a trio of Pokemon that work on the Ho-Oh and are loosely based on cats. People used to think they were based on dogs, indicated by the Space World demo and the awful sprites in the original games, with Raikou being the closest thing where you can tell it's supposed to be a saber-toothed tiger mixed with a modern-day tiger. And what makes them stand out compared to other trios of Pokemon like the legendary birds or the titans, with Reiji in their name, is that each of them got advertised quite well, making them unique. Raikou getting a special called the Roar of Thunder, Suicune getting his own game, Pokemon Crystal, as well as in the manga getting special treatment compared to the other two, as it's a more fleshed out character, and testing various trainers who is worthy to be its master, as Entei would be one of the main characters of Pokemon Movie 3, the Spell of Unknown. But mostly, the most appealing thing about the legendary beast is their backstory. As you can see, is they used to be different Pokemon, or heavily implied they were different Pokemon before they became the legendary beast, as they were burnt down in the burnt tower, only later to be revived by Ho-Oh. And then they shied away from humans who'd presumably caused that fire, explaining the reason why they would run away from whenever you encounter them, or in case of Suicune in later games, who would test you if you are really worthy to fight it. And but this is the reason why many are intrigued about the legendary beast, as it's clear or rather, it's heavily implied that they weren't always legendary beasts, which is today's topic, but Pokemon were the legendary beast originally. And what we do know, like I explained, is that in the Sacred Tower, which is now called the Burnt Tower, these three Pokemon, before they became the legendary beasts, were trapped and died in a fire. And Ho-Oh used his Sacred Ash, probably, to revive them as the legendary beast Pokemon they are known today. And the theory many fans have, including me, is that the legendary beasts are based, or used to be, evolutions. And some indicators is that the town is full of Pokemon trainers that are associated with the Burnt Tower that use one of the original 5 evolutions at the time. Umbreon, Espeon, Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon. And examples are the monks that you battle in Pokemon Crystal before you fight Suicune. And obviously the Kimono Girls, who would lead you in the Heart Gold and Soul Silver remakes to either Ho-Oh or Lugia, as well as being forced to fight them before getting the TM for Surf in the original games. The next indicator is that the typings of the original 3 evolutions, Jolteon, and Vaporeon and Flareon, matching up with the types of the legendary beasts. And stat-wise, not exactly the stat distribution, but in what the beast specialize is similar to what the evolutions they match up specialize. And we will get to it right now. For example, Raikou is probably the closest to its associated evolution. This is from Smogon, the Sun and Moon section. And as you can see, Raikou is really excels in speed and special attack, just like Jolteon. And another thing is, at least from generation 5 to 6, Raikou's hidden ability used to be Volt Absorb, which was never released, which is Jolteon's main ability. Obviously, both are also electric types, mono electric types at that. And they have similar moves, like both can learn Shadow Ball and obviously electric type moves. One that can be kinda argued is Entei versus Flareon, as Entei excels in HP and speed, while Flareon is more about special defense. But in terms of how they are played, they are pretty much played similarly. Both are obviously fire types, and both are used as wall breakers, taking advantage of the massive attack stat. Both before the special and physical split, were forced to use special moves with the pitiful 90 or 95 special attack, which is still usable, but they are pretty much considered the weakest of their compared to the other Pokemon of their group. And both lacked Flare Blitz for quite a while, and they can only get Flare Blitz through event, and Flareon was able to learn Flare Blitz in generation 7 onwards. So basically they relied heavily on Fire Fang as physical fire move, making them struggle to take full advantage of their physical attack. Also their physical attack is really limited. Like Entei got fine off by getting Sacred Fire in generation 6, but it doesn't learn a lot of good physical moves like Bulldoze it gets, but that's pretty much it. After Gen 8, it can learn Extreme Speed by itself. Flareon had Superpower, and you might use Facade because it has Guts. Like I said, both are fire types, and Entei's hidden ability, which was never released, from generation 5 and 6, was Flash Fire, which is Flareon's main ability. Obviously both were also used defensively at some point, Entei using its defensive stats mainly to use its calm mindset because it couldn't take advantage of physical sets in the past, and Flareon used its special stats to Wish Pass and spread burns with Lava Plume. Lastly, Vaporeon versus Suicune, or vice versa. Both are water types specialized on on defensive roles. Suicune has high HP and massive defenses, and Vaporeon may have really high special attack, but it's usually not used as a special attack or a tank. It is used mainly as a defensive Pokemon, spreading burns with Scald and Wish Passing. Both are excelling at using Roar, both are using Toxic. Suicune is also using Calm Mind. It's mostly used as a setup sweeper. Both can be used as offensive Pokemon as well, as Suicune has a calm mindset which can be used both offensively in being a sweeper or something like um, tank, as Vaporeon can also be used as just a tank, using its special attack to break through certain walls, but that's not what it's used to. And both were really excelling in their jobs compared to the other beasts right now, as you can here see in Generation 2, both weren't that useful. Another thing, water, both mono water type, and Suicune in Generation 6 and 5, its had an ability which was never released, was water absorb. But that's obviously just a theory, and it just lines up so well because the evolutions were just 3 Pokemon in the past, and it's just so, how should I tell? It just fits. There's so much things that pretty much tell that these Pokemon are associated with each other in some way or shape or form. The only thing you may question is how does Flareon die in a fire, considering it has a flash fire, but it might have been a hidden ability, Flareon. Now the things that may go against the theory, and we are going to get to spoiler territory, to potential DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, mainly on Pokemon Scarlet. And if you didn't play the game, this may be something you don't want to know right now, and it may be released as DLC. And this is the following. What is this conflicting information? It's an unrevealed past Paradox Pokemon from Pokemon Scarlet that may be the ancestor of the legendary beasts. And as you can see, this is pretty much a fusion of the 3 Pokemon. And apparently the research team has encountered this creature. There's Suicune's something. You see the mountains from Entei. The mouth seems like a mixture of Entei's and Raikou's mouth piece. You can see the wave ribbons from Suicune. You can see the feet of Raikou right here. And the mane, it seems also like a mixture of, because it isn't colored, we can't really tell if it's Suicune's hair or if it's Entei's. So there's a question of, could this be the Pokemon that burnt in the burnt tower? But that would mean that some legendary Pokemon survived. Some Paradox Pokemon survived the burnt tower, which I personally think is really unlikely. What does it mean? The Pokemon that died were 3 Paradox Pokemon already, but not likely, like I mentioned, so are Pokemon that existed in the distant past. If Jolteon, Vaporeon, and Flareon really are Entei, Raikou, and that's supposed to be Suicune, then Eevee has the generic material of the Paradox Pokemon, as well as all evolutions. So I assume that if the legendary dogs, cats, beasts are really based on evolutions, then this Pokemon set seems like a fusion of the 3 legendary dogs, beasts, cats is the ancestor of Eevee, which would explain why it has so many evolutions, or evolution path. The question is what kind of type this Pokemon is. So, considering it seems to have a base of 3 Pokemon, it would be likely this is a legendary normal type, because Eevee is a normal type, and this normal type is associated with excelling in various things, but it can't take full advantage of it. So it's a Pokemon that can use fire, water, dark, grass, ice, fire, electricity, and whatnot. And Ho-Oh may have been able to draw out the lost potential of the Pokemon it revived. So, let's say Suicune, Raikou, Jolteon died and was revived, and when revived by Ho-Oh's Sacred Ash, the genetic material from the past, its potential has been unlocked as far as possible and evolved into a Raikou. Not evolved in a traditional way, but mutated. Seems like a better way. Like Carbon is like Diancie being a mutated Carbon. And it would kinda line up because one of Ho-Oh's moves is Ancient Power, so it kinda drew out the ancient power of these Pokemon, which makes me wonder what if, obviously it isn't guaranteed that the legendary beast used to be evolutions, but if it is, what could be a theoretical legendary beast Espeon or Umbreon be like? And whatever it is, it has to draw its design from this one Pokemon in some way, shape or form. And it's really hard to come up with a good design, whatever it is. So, in other words, what is the answer? We don't know.